So let's start talking about how we can limit the information that we see. We'll rerun this again by clicking our Run button up here, which is the red exclamation point. And we see we've got data from lots of different states, zip codes, cities. We can expand these if we need to expand them to see what's hiding behind these things. But we've got all sorts of information in here, and we want to kind of limit some of what we're looking at. Well, maybe we want to just go after companies from California, as a for instance. So we're going to go back to our design view again, and now we're going to find our state inside of our query, and that field happens to be right here. Notice here we have a criteria row, which we're going to click on, and what we're going to do is we're going to establish a simple criteria. We're going to say, look, we only want to see records where this field equals, and I'm opening up quotes. When we're doing letters, if we're hitting an alpha field and we're going after alpha characters, we need to put them in quotes. If we're going after numbers, you don't necessarily have to. So I'm going to open and close my quotations, and we'll put in CA in the middle. So I've simply said, look, I only want records where the state equals CA or California. And again, normally I will go ahead and test run this because I'm not done yet. At which point we see that now we're seeing less records. We're only seeing those records whereby the state is California. So I could go further and say, well, I only want Los Angeles, or I want a specific zip code within Los Angeles. We could do that if we wanted to. I'm not going to do that right now. That's not where I'm going. I'm going to go somewhere else. Because something I may want to see is I may want to see customers that have sales under a certain value. So maybe I want to let my sales staff know, hey, guys, you need to start bothering these folks. There's some reason they've dropped off in sales. What's going on? So in this case, I can set a hard value like I did here for my state. And I can say, look, I only want to see customers that have sales less than, I'm just using the less than symbol, $10,000, but only for the state of California. So now when we run our query, instead of 8 records, we're presented 5. And if we look over here, we see why. Because they have $4,300 in sales. These guys are under 1,000, under 1,000, under 1,000, and at 793 also under 1,000. So we've really limited what we're looking at now. We've gotten much more specific. We can continue to add additional criteria to this if we want to. Or, even better, what happens if one of these values changes? What if I want to be able to put a different value in every time I run this? Maybe it's state, or maybe it's sales. Maybe that $10,000 is a moving value. So what I could do instead is we're going to remove that $10,000, and we're going to open up one of the squared-off brackets, the actual bracket itself. We're going to open that up, and we're going to type something in here. We're going to say sales under, and we're going to close the bracket. Now, what's that doing for us? Well, when we open up a bracket and we put something inside of those brackets, what it's looking for is it's looking to match that to a field name inside of whatever tables we have open. We can even hit a table outside of this. It's a little bit more complex to do that. We're not going to do that today, but we could go after another table altogether if we wanted to. But in this case, I've put something that does not match a field inside of brackets. Access does not know what to do with that. The query tools just isn't sure what to do with that because it doesn't find a matching value that matches sales under. So when I execute my query now, I should see a prompt. And that prompt is actually prompting me for a parameter. That parameter is whatever I put inside those brackets. So it's now saying, look, you tell me what this is. So if we put in our $10,000 and click OK, we'll return that same 5 records. We're going to scoot back. We're going to run it again. And this time we're going to say, look, I only want to see everybody who's under $4,000. And now we see only 4 records. That one who had $4,800 in sales is no longer appearing inside of our query. So we have just created a dynamic query that allows us to use the same thing to go after different information. And I can set that to go after a state, zip code, city, whatever I want to on here, a customer name. I can go ahead and I can start to create these more intelligent querying tools to set us up to start creating things like reports. Now, before I open up for questions on the query stuffs here, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to save this. We're going to click the little save button up here, and we're going to name that query. We're going to call it the Sales Under query. We'll click up.